in automatic transmissions, it's not about how hard your clutch engages as much as it's about how quickly your clutch engages. The longer it's taking you to engage the clutch in your automatic transmission, the more heat you're generating, and heat is really the ultimate killer of an automatic transmission. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Mohawk Motors. My name is Jason. So I'm going to have to do this in multiple videos to show you everything I want to show you. Today is going to be the first part of building this 4L60, 4L65 hybrid for the Ass Blazer. This video I'm going to focus on getting the power flow assembly installed and put together. Basically everything that transmits the power from the input shaft to the output shaft. I'm going to show you the modifications and changes I'm making to help this thing handle more power, more torque, and try to reduce the amount of heat the transmission is generating. That's pretty much it. Let's get started on this thing, and I'll show you all that I'm going to do. Let's go. All right, well, I finally got pretty much all of my pieces here. I'm still waiting for my new wire harness and solenoids, but I think I have everything else. I've got transmission master overhaul kit. All the seals, all the gaskets, all the bushings are in this kit. Came with a 29 element sprag, a few other little upgraded parts as well, Corvette servo, so on and so forth. An extra wide band, a boost valve kit, a valve body shifting kit, some seals, Delrin check balls, aluminum servo and accumulator pistons, a Transgo shift kit, and I even treated myself to a couple new tools. I'll put links to everything in the description for you, so you'll be able to buy as much or as little of this as you like. And the two things that I definitely recommend, and honestly I wouldn't do this without them, your ATSG 4L60E technical manual, and then the ATSG technical manual revisions. Now, the revision manual is about twice as thick as the technical manual, and that's all updates and improvements to make to the 4L60, 4L65, and 4L70E. But the original tech manual that I have here, the blue one, this has just the basic information. How to stack up your clutch packs, which bushings go where, what ports feed what your power flow is, what clutches are locked and unlocked for what gears, all of that stuff. That is not included in the update manual. So if you're just doing a stock rebuild, this is all you need. If you're going to try to do a rebuild with some upgrades, I really recommend get both, because there's a lot of really good information in both of them. So where I'm at here is kind of the boring stuff at this point. I need to get my clutches stacked up, check my tolerances, make sure everything is where it should be. I need to finish getting the case bushings out and get the case nice and cleaned up the way I want it. And then I can start putting it together. So I'm going to give you a little time lapse of the boring, tedious, not exciting stuff that is very important to do. And then as I start making the upgrades, the improvements, the things that you'll need to change, I'll explain that more in depth. So let's make some space and get to work. Alright everybody, so I'm at a point here where I'm going to do the first deviation from the instructions that come that are in the manual, right? So I ordered my transmission overhaul kit, and it comes with 5 new low reverse frictions and 5 new low reverse steels. Now, if you were doing a plain Jane rebuild, more than likely you would reuse, or you would use these new steels that came with your rebuild kit. Now, my transmission that I started with had the steels in it that have holes in them. These holes are there to help the fluid leave from between the steel and the clutches and the frictions faster. It basically is there to help the clutch engage faster by getting the transmission fluid out from between the friction surfaces more quickly. So I am going to reuse the factory steels because of those holes. Now I am going to clean them off really well, and then I'm going to go over the surfaces of them. Just give them a light little rub down with my green Scotch-Brite pad here. That'll freshen the surface up. There's really no damage to them. I mean, I can still see the machining marks in most of them. So I'm not all that worried about reusing them. And I want the benefit of having those holes to help the fluid get out of the way faster. So I'll save these new steels for later. In this transmission, I'm going to reuse the stock steels just to get that little tiny, probably won't even matter, bit of faster clutch engagement out of this clutch pack. So first thing I'm doing that isn't exactly by the book. If you don't have these, if you don't have the steels with the holes in them, it's not that big a deal. Use your solid steels. But I have them, so I might as well use them, right? I finally got this low reverse clutch to a place that I'm happy. I wound up going essentially full race. So I eliminated the wave plate. The wave plate is really there to make your manual low and reverse engagement. It softens them. I like a good solid reverse engagement, so I'm not too worried about losing the wave plate. And essentially what that did is allow me to add an entire extra friction and an entire extra steel. Now, to do this correctly, you're going to be putting a steel in place of the wave plate. And you need to remove, if you have your little notched ear, the second tab up on this side, and then the very first tab on this side. You need to grind those off because they will bottom out against the case instead of resting on the piston. So this has to be now your special replacement for the wave plate. And other than that, the clutch goes in the same way. Steel, friction, steel, friction, steel, friction, etc. until you have it fully stacked up. So I'm happy with this low reverse clutch now. I'm going to have a very solid, positive engagement into reverse or manual low gear when I do. I don't expect to be doing a lot of manual shifting with this, but you never know, right? And it's not going to hurt anything. It's just going to be to someone that didn't know, they would think there's something wrong with the transmission. But I'm going to be the person driving this, and occasionally my wife, and I'll explain to her, like, that is normal. You don't need to worry. Nothing is wrong. Proceed as planned. So I'll get this stacked up, I'll get the support back in place where it goes. And then we'll move on. Keep going with our reassembly until the next modification that I need to show you. All right, moving along, just following the instructions in the manual. The next thing I am upgrading is I am installing this. This is called in the manual the Reaction Sun Gear Shell. They're commonly referred to in the transmission industry as the Beast Sun Gear Shell. These are an extremely common weak link in the 4L60E. Probably one of the most common failure points in this transmission. So if you're going to be in here at all, even if you're just doing a stock rebuild, I highly recommend upgrading this part. They're only like 75 or 80 bucks. And you eliminate arguably the weakest link in the whole transmission. This is just my habit, but it's always a good idea. If you're putting together parts that spin in a series, like a transmission or an engine, it's a good idea after each new part you put on, give it a spin and make sure it spins freely, no binding, you know. That way, before you put 15 other parts on, you'll know that you have a problem and where you should start looking. I replaced all my bushings in the input planetary set. So I'm pretty sure those are the next parts that go in, and then after that I'll be installing the output shaft. So I'm just keep moving along. I'm literally just following the instructions out of the book, guys. If you can read and follow instructions, you can do this. All right, everybody, it's the next day. I wound up, we have some new neighbors, and we wound up going over to hang out with them yesterday evening, welcome them to the neighborhood. But I'm picking up where I left off, and the next thing I need to do here is get my new 29 element dual cage sprag installed onto the sun gear here. So I'm going to put that together, and then the instructions in the manual are saying put that in first before I do all of the input housing assembly. So I'm just going to keep following the instructions in the book. This sprag is simple remove and replace, nothing complicated or fancy about that. And you know, when I get to the next upgrade or change, I'll bring you back again. I almost forgot. Check out my new shirt. Got the new Mohawk Motors logo on the front and on the back. I really love this new logo, but I've got a bunch of different designs. If you want to grab something, I'll put a link to the store in the description. So, you know, anything you buy, it helps me with projects and bringing you guys more, hopefully, informative and entertaining content. Back. The battery died. I've just been removed. Take off the old stuff, put on the new stuff. Nothing exciting. But full disclosure, I did make an error that I had to go back and correct. And that was, I did not read the instructions with my shift kit before I started going through the rebuild. And the reason that was important is because part of the shift kit is to prep the transmission for operation over 5,500 RPM. These transmissions There's a couple check balls here in the input housing assembly that above 5,500 RPM they won't function correctly. So that needed to be replaced with an orifice instead of a check ball. And I also needed to replace the forward clutch return springs and the, what are the other ones in there? The forward clutch return springs and the overrun clutch return springs needed to be replaced with a stiffer spring. So I took it all back apart, went through, got those replaced. I got the reverse input drum, new bushings installed, new clutches installed. That's all ready to go now. So I am waiting on my Z-Pack 3/4 clutches to get here so I can finish assembly of the input housing, get that installed into the transmission, install the reverse input housing, and then that'll be pretty much it for the power assembly, the power transfer assembly in here. I do have my new Teflon sealing rings installed. This is the sizing tool. It basically just squeezes those Teflon rings back down to the size that they're supposed to be on here. So I'm kind of just stuck waiting on that Z-Pack to get here so I can finish putting this together.
One eternity later.
All right, team. Well, my Z-Pack came, so I can finish getting my 3/4 clutch assembled here in the input housing and get this installed. And then I have to take most of this stuff back out because I forgot to put the anti-clunk spring in. So I have to get this put in before I finish putting the power stack back together. The Z-Pack, just like everything else, comes with instructions. I'm just going to read, follow the instructions, and should give me a much better 3/4 clutch engagement. Alright everybody, that's it. The power flow assembly is complete. I checked my end play. Minimum spec is 15 thousandths. I'm at about 16 thousandths, which is where I want to be. I want to be tight. So I'm not going to set it all up again. But to check your transmission end play, you can either use a tool, use your hand. The tool is easier, but I don't have it. But set your dial indicator on the very tip of the input shaft, and then you'll lift up and down on the input shaft and measure that end play. It should be 15 to 40 thousandths. Mine's right at 16 thousandths, like I said. So that's right on the tight side, right where I want it, because I don't want to have a bunch of slop in this transmission, considering the amount of power I'm going to try to put through it. That's the last step. We've got all new seals, all new gaskets, all new O-rings, all new Teflons, all new clutches, and we reused some of the steels to get the faster drain back from the little holes. We put our 5-pinion planetary gears from the 4L65 into this thing. Our Z-Pack in the 3/4 clutch. We removed the wave plate from the low reverse clutch and added another friction and another steel. We did the 29 element dual cage sprag. We set all of our clutches to minimum spec by switching out clutches, switching out steels, so that tolerance is as tight as possible, which will help the clutch engage as quickly as possible. What else did we do here? We put the Beast Sun Gear shell in. This transmission already had bonded pistons in it. I just put new bonded pistons in it. Again, I want to make sure there are no leaks here. What else? Stronger return springs for the input housing clutches. Those come with the shift kit. The instructions are pretty straightforward there. It's going to vary depending on which shift kit you're using. And I think that's pretty much it. We more or less blueprinted the power flow assembly in this transmission to keep all the clearances, all the tolerances as tight as possible, so we will have as little slipping as possible and as fast an engagement as we can. The big killer of a transmission is heat, guys. Friction creates heat, heat kills the transmission. So the more slipping and friction you can reduce, the longer your transmission is going to live. Next video, we're going to get into the servo assembly and the valve body. We'll get all those modifications made. I mean, that's really the brain of the transmission. So we've got to do a lot of work in there and make it do what we want it to do. And yeah, we'll get on with it. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this is helpful for you if you're trying to put together a 4L60 in your own garage. I'm telling you, these things are not made out of glass like people say they are. They are good transmissions if you put them together right. So we're going to prove it with this one. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. And we're going to put a good amount of power through it too. Thanks again for watching, everybody. We'll see you in the next video.